guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited for today's video because this is my first Bake With Me video. I've done some cooking vlogs and videos here and there, but my first baking video, and nothing makes me more happy than to bake. I love baking cookies, bread, muffins, but baking bread sometimes can be a little intimidating. But I did find this recipe on Pinterest and it is so easy. I promise you, if I can make this, you guys can make it. So I just wanted to share this recipe with you guys because anytime I entertain, I have a holiday, anything, I love making this bread. This is like my go-to bread recipe. And then I make this olive oil herb dipping sauce. So if you ever go to Italian restaurants and they serve you bread with a side of those, I don't know, little dipping sauces that, you know, consist of herbs and stuff, this is what this is. But I zhuzh it up a little bit by adding fresh chopped minced garlic, red pepper flakes, and it's so good. So this recipe is only a few ingredients, and again, I promise you it is so easy and you will not regret it. So I'm telling you, make this recipe. So let's get to the ingredients. Okay, for this recipe, this is all you need is all-purpose flour, salt, 1 packet of rapid rise instant yeast, 1.5 cup of hot water, and this is optional. I add a pinch of sugar into my bread. So you don't have to do this. The recipe doesn't call for it. I just like to add it because it helps bring the yeast to life. So that's why I like to add a little pinch of sugar into my bread. So let's start with the first step, is getting all our dry ingredients into a bowl. Okay, get yourself a bowl, some big bowl, whatever you have on hand, and let's go ahead and combine all our dry ingredients. So we're gonna add 3 cups of flour to the bowl. We're gonna add 1 packet of the rapid rise instant yeast. One teaspoon of salt. And a pinch of sugar. Take a whisk and just go ahead and mix everything together, just to make sure everything is incorporated in there. And that's it. And then add your 1.5 cup of hot water. So I'm adding my hot water. I like to take a wooden spoon and mix everything before I get my hands in there. So if you have your rings or anything, take it off because you will need to get your hands a little dirty with some flour. So once all the flour starts to get combined and it starts to look like this, you see how it's starting to look wet and almost like a Play-Doh texture? This is where I go in with my hands and I start mixing everything. And you literally just, I take it and I scoop the flour over and just keep doing that until it's all nicely combined. If you think you need a little bit of more water, just wet your hands and go ahead and somewhat knead the dough, because the dough's gonna have to rest, but you wanna incorporate all that flour. So you see how my hands are kind of sticky? I'm just gonna barely wet my hands so I can go ahead and finish putting all the dough together. Okay, my hands are wet. And once you wet your hands, the dough is gonna all stick together, and you shouldn't have too much dough stuck to your hands. And if you do, you may wanna wet them just a little bit more. But if you saw how wet my hands were, how my hands had so much dough on them, you see how it's almost all gone? And that's by wetting your hands. So now, my dough is pretty much good to go. And it's gonna look like this. Now you're gonna cover the dough and let it rest for an hour and let the yeast do its job. All right, now we just cover the dough. I like to put a a heavy lid on it. You can use whatever you want, a book, whatever you have on hand, and just let it sit. Your dough should rise at that point, and we'll check back in an hour. So go ahead and clean your kitchen, prepare dinner, do what you need to do, but we'll come back in an hour and check our dough. All right, guys, I'm back. The dough has been resting for 40 minutes. So now what we need to start doing is preheating our oven to 450 degrees. And what you're gonna bake your bread in is a Dutch oven. And here's my Dutch oven. It's right here, and you wanna put this in the oven now with the lid and let this start getting scorching hot, because once the dough is finished resting for an hour, this is a no knead recipe, but you semi knead it just a smidge, and then we're gonna let it rest for 15 minutes, stick it in the Dutch oven, and then in the oven is gonna go and bake away. But I will also link in the description box all the supplies that you will need to bake this bread. It's not much, but I want to give you the recipe and also the supplies that you will need. But you will need a Dutch oven, and if you don't have one, you can find these literally at Walmart or Target. Lately I've been seeing them on sale a lot. You can find them on sale, a nice size one for about starting at $39.99. But when I tell you, I have put my Dutch oven to good use with making stews, chilies, bread, everything. This was definitely a great investment for our home. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick this guy in the oven so it can start warming up, and then I will come back with you guys in 20 minutes so we can go ahead and knead the dough, form it, let it rest 15 minutes, and then we're gonna stick it in the oven, and then we'll get started on our olive oil herb dipping sauce. So I need to put this guy in the oven. Okay guys, it's been a full hour that the dough has been resting, and now we're gonna take some flour, dust our countertop with some flour, and we're gonna go ahead and knead the dough just a little bit, and then form it and let it rest 15 more minutes. Here's the dough. Look how big it's turned. So it has risen, and this is what it should look like. So now we're gonna take it out of here. And we're gonna put a little bit more flour on top of it. And then you just want to knead it a little bit with your hands. Like I said, it's up to you. They always say that some recipes are no knead, and I feel like all bread needs to be kneaded just a little bit, but some breads you have to knead a lot, and this one is not that much. So just knead it a little bit. Just make sure you do put some dusting of flour so it doesn't stick. Knead it just a smidge more. And literally this is it. That's all the kneading I'm gonna do. And now this is what your ball of dough should look like. So now what we're gonna do is take some parchment paper. And I just put a little bit of dough on here. Let me crinkle it up a little bit so it doesn't keep rolling on me. Put your dough on here, and now put your towel or whatever you had it covered with, and now it's gonna rest 15 more minutes. Okay, the 15 minutes have passed, and the dough's nicely rested. It's ready to go in the oven. One thing that I do like to do, I like to take a knife, and I don't have anything sharper than this, and just kind of score it a little bit. So when it bakes, it opens up a little bit. There you go. That's it. Now I'm gonna take the Dutch oven out of the oven. It's super hot, so make sure you put this on a cooling rack. And we're gonna stick this in the Dutch oven. the bread is baking away, and if you can smell this home, it smells like a little bakery. But while it's baking, okay, so the total time to bake this bread is about 45 minutes. At the 30-minute mark, you're going to remove the lid from your Dutch oven and remove the parchment paper, and then you're going to let it bake for another 10-15 minutes. The reason for that is by removing the parchment paper, you're letting the bottom of the bread get nice and crusty, and let the top of the bread get nice and golden brown with those little crusty edges. So that's the reason that why you remove the lid and parchment paper, you know, within the last 10 to 15 minutes of baking. If you don't want it too crispy, then don't remove the parchment paper. But if you like a little bit of crusty bread, remove the parchment paper and it gets nice and toasty. So now we're gonna go ahead and make the little herb and garlic dipping sauce. I already have all the herbs pre-made because we use this a lot. I make a lot of bread here, homemade bread, this bread. We absolutely love it. And this is what it's gonna look like. I wish you guys can smell this. It smells so good, but look at that. And having a little bowl, and I have already pre-made. All this is, and you can make however you like. You can use whatever herbs you want. I have oregano, parsley, thyme, red pepper flakes, garlic salt, that Laurie's garlic sauce that has pieces of parsley in there as well. And then I chop up really finely some garlic and olive oil and just mix it in a little bowl. And the longer it sits, the more that olive oil is going to be infused by the garlic and the herbs, and it tastes so good. You can even drizzle a little bit of balsamic vinegar in there. I don't have the vinegar, but I've done it before. So I'm going to show you real quick. I'm just going to dump this in a little white bowl that I have, chop up some garlic, drizzle some olive oil sauce, and then when the bread is ready to take out the oven, I'll let it cool, slice, and then we're going to dip it and then indulge. So let me get the little dipping sauce put together. And will have this all in my description box on how I personally make this. But again, you can modify it to your liking, but I will have it all in the description box for you. Okay guys, I have taken the bread out the oven and it's on the cooling rack, cooling off, and I'm about to go ahead and cut it. I should probably let it cool off a little bit more, but I cannot wait, and we're wanting to dig right in. But I wanted to show you the bread. Oh, look at that. It is so pretty and it's super crusty. So yeah, and that's gonna pair so nicely with this. So let's get to slicing this beauty. It is so soft. Look at that. So yummy. I'm gonna take some of this bread because I literally cannot wait. Look at that. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As you can see, bread's done, the olive oil dipping sauce is done, and I am ready to dig in. I hope this inspires you to make this recipe, and if you have any recipes that you would like to share with me, please do, because I'm all about experimenting in the kitchen, and I would love to try to make your recipe if you have your go-to bread recipe, or any recipe for that matter. But I hope you guys truly enjoyed this video, and if you do make this recipe, let me know. I would like to know how you liked it, how it turned out. But I will be making a lot more baking videos, and I can't wait to see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.